I'm Joshua Robinson. I'm a chaplain with Legacy Hospice. I can't hear myself. Is it good enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good enough?
Okay.
Great. I'm Joshua. I'm a chaplain with Legacy Hospice, and it was a real joy to talk to Leanne a number of weeks ago when she got a hold of us and had her questions about hospice. Now, I'm here today to kind of talk in this realm of psychology, or grief more specifically. And as she mentioned, my boss Kate's going to be here in a couple of weeks, and she's just a treasure. She is so compassionate, and in the world of hospice, she's a real champion. And honestly, I can't say enough about her. And so I would encourage you, if you do have any questions about hospice, come back in a couple weeks and meet Kate. Hear more of the clinical stuff. Okay, I'm in the realm of the spiritual, and my background is church ministry, and I like to talk about those things of the heart. And I'm not going to be able to field all of the questions that are clinical in nature, but I'll do my best. And then if you have more questions about palliative care and hospice, you'll want to come back and talk to those experts in that realm. And it's my joy to be here today. And I want to kind of say before we get started that I have kind of my occupational connection to this field. I've been a pastor for a good long while, and then I've been in this hospice field helping with families as their loved ones pass away. What we do in hospice in the chaplain aspect is I'm going to go minister to those who are on hospice, and statistically 75% of those people, it's related to dementia, some kind of cognitive decline, and pretty much the other 25% or so is cancer related, as you can imagine. And so we're there helping with the patients, but as I kind of approach the bereavement aspect and that grief aspect, I really love to connect with the family members. And I actually spend a whole year following the passing of the patient, spending time helping and providing resources and tools and prayer and counsel to the family members. And so that's really my heart occupationally. Now, on a personal level, my mom passed away 2 years ago, and both of my grandmothers, and so there's 3 men in my life, my dad and my 2 grandfathers, who could all really use this meeting, I tell you. And we just this weekend moved my dad into an apartment. Mom's been gone 2 years. You know, he's kind of had his stuff that he's scared to turn loose of, and now he's in an apartment, and all those things are in boxes. I was telling Sandra, it's overwhelming for him. And I saw my grandpas go through the same thing. And so this kind of stuff, I feel like maybe I'm a young face for a meeting like this, but man, is it really personal and near to my heart. And so I'm so thankful, Leanne, for the invitation to be here. And I've got right now in print this book that we have been giving digitally, but it's going to be available in print. It's a grief workbook that I've curated and just compiled a lot of really wonderful gems. And if any of you feel like, you know what, my loved one's going through it, I've got this sorrow, I've got this grief, or somebody in your family, I'm gonna just kind of make it available. If you would like a copy of that book, I would give it to you. I don't actually sell it, and so, but I give it out. And if you want a copy of that, you can see Leanne and we can make that happen. I'd love to just get that kind of help into your hand and into your heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I think this one's also.
You just, it has to be close to your mouth.
No,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's fine. I'm loud.
I charge them, I promise.
That's fine. I am Sandra with Simplify with Sandra, and I do professional organizing. So I am registered with the National Association of Organizing, and I have a specialty in life transitions. And I, ever since I was 20, I have been volunteering at the hotline, Suicide Prevention and Crisis Service. So I have a lot of, grief. So you have to go through training to be on these hotlines. And so that's how I started kind of trying to give back. It's just sort of my nature of just being, I think I'm an empath and I love to take care of people. And then I'm just a very organized person, didn't know it was a thing until I started seeing like Marie Kondo and all these people on TV, and I'm like, oh, hey, I can do that. And so I hooked up with someone that is a professional organizer and started working with them. And then I just started going off on my own and getting jobs, and I just love, so professionally, I'm a molecular biologist, but I have since, for like 20 years, but I've since moved on to just doing professional organizing because I find it really fulfilling. And I love the tangible before and after. It just feels so good, you know? I love the chaos. I can show you a picture of somebody just helped, you know, just like stuff everywhere, and then just put it into a system where you can find the things you're looking for based on the system that works for you, and then maintaining it is easy with the systems that we create, and that's just fun for me, and it's also another way of that I feel I can give back and give to people.
I was reading on your site, that's one of the things that makes you so special is that you co-create these systems.
Yeah.
Instead of
I don't just
making
throw-
someone,
Yeah, I don't throw things away. Like if somebody, I've seen some organizers that are just very adamant about throwing things away. And you know, although I do feel there's certainly time to donate and give things to other people who are in need that might be able to use them. Because if they're just taking up space in your house and there's no use for them, it starts becoming stressful and emotional energy of things that you don't use that are you're now kind of a storage unit instead of your parents who have passed, of your children's wonderful memorabilia. But there's things you can do with that instead of trying to keep it all in your house and not have room for other
yeah,
things.
and I think we're gonna definitely get into that
Yeah.
in just a bit. So Miss Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Palmetier, and I'm a senior, like many of you. And I'm a senior that is transitioning unexpectedly. We had a lovely home in Noblesville, and all of a sudden I was hit by the family dog. Went over backwards. I ended up in the hospital and really couldn't go back home with my husband. My husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I ended up in assisted living. Finally, he came in to join me. And none of this was supposed to happen. We weren't really old enough. Well, this wasn't what we were expecting. We actually had a deposit someplace else to go into independent living, and we were on the waiting list. You know, what's happened? We were always in control, but we weren't then. I'd had, in our first 40 years of marriage, at least 30 moves all over the world. I knew how to pack boxes, and I knew how to be organized. But I wasn't then. And not only that, he was in the home by himself for probably 2 months. Shouldn't have been. Ex-engineer, building embassies all over our world. And he was turning our yard and our home into a construction site. It wasn't safe for either of us. We're safe now. It's coming together. Our family's coming back together. It wasn't on our time. I'm a firm believer the good Lord has something to do with this, because he sure brought a lot of good people into our life over this last year and a half, and it wasn't our plan. It just happened to be the people that just came into our life when we needed it. And we're in the right place, the right time, and it's just wonderful that there's something about faith, there's something about determination, there's something about the challenge. This is life. We all go through it. I read a book, an article the other day that said some of the best friends you meet are those that you end up with in your senior care center. And that's the truth. We all have a life story, and this is part of it. And you will meet some of the most fantastic people with some of the best life stories that you could ever imagine. And there's so many things that you share that's alike. You go back and you remember some of the old movies, and you remember some of the things that you did in high school, and just everyday life that we shared together. I even found an old classmate. We graduated from the same high school in Oregon. And we're living here in Indiana. Can you imagine? He may have graduated 8 years before me, but we were in the same place. We used to stomp around the same creek, Johnson Creek, you know? That doesn't happen everywhere. There's a lot of living still to go once you move into and transfer into that next stage of life. It's a place of opportunity. It doesn't have to be a place that is so negative. It can be positive. My husband and I both serve on the Residence Council. We enjoy cards, we enjoy games, we're meeting new people all the time. And we still can go ahead, we still do, usher down at the Symphony downtown. Mike rocks babies at the church, and we both still do some of the same volunteer things that we did before. I like the art stuff that we're doing at the center, and we just continue living. You take opportunities that you didn't have before. I like the fact that I don't have to do dishes. That's great.
We're gonna ask you more about that, Lori. But it doesn't even wonder that I asked her to come and talk to us. Yeah, she's got an amazing story. Let's go ahead and get to some of these questions. Josh, you're in the hot seat first. Why does parting with our things often feel like we're losing a part of us?
Yeah. My dad said it best last night. Like I said, we're moving Dad into his apartment. There's all these boxes, and a lot of it's not his possessions, it's my mom's. And he said it well. He says, it's not the things, it's the person that those things represent. And underneath a lot of the things of life that we've come to cherish, there's a lot of emotions, some of which is fear. There's that fear of dishonoring our loved one. It's the fear of missing out. It's the fear of forgetting. My parents went through something some 15 years ago. They were called to minister in Florida, and they had to downsize from about 2,500 square feet to 900 square feet. And my mom was a lady of a million Christmas decorations, and she was an exquisite home decorator, and she had to let a lot of that go. And it was a big passion in her heart. And she found herself, taking pictures of all these things and not wanting to forget, not wanting to, turn loose of those things and the memories that they represent. But it's an amazing thing that, I'm not particularly a collector personality. My wife is a collector. She has her things, and she can remember where every single item came from. Like, I don't know where I got this sweater, but my wife does, okay? And so for her, these things are very, very close to her heart. And if something gets broken by our toddler, okay, then that is pretty devastating to her. And you kind of go through these things of, you know what, it's not just a matter of the tangible item, but it is the surrounding story. It's the people, and it's the emotions that go along with just life. As Lori said, we're living, and this snow today is a wonderful example that we don't actually get to decide when we enter a new season. Mm-hmm. And none of us were really expecting. Friday was great. I didn't need a sweater on Friday, and then bam, there's people sliding off the roads and all that this morning. And the seasons come, and you can't stop them from coming, and you're into this, and now you find a season where it's like, hey, I this little cradle, this little bassinet that once served my babies, I don't have any babies anymore. And this wardrobe that I lived in Florida for 17 years. I had a Florida wardrobe, and it did not involve this, right? And now you move into a new chapter, and it's a new wardrobe. So things come and they go, and there's a story that the things represent. And I think that there's a lot of intentionality that you can put into the healing, and then sort of like, if we can approach something like, we use the word chapter a lot, right? You're entering a new season, that's a common one. We also say, we're entering a new chapter. I think it's a very healthy thing to realize each chapter is a part of the same book, right? And each chapter that you go through, man, if you've fought cancer before, if you've gone to war, if you've lost a child, like all of those are dark chapters, but it's a part of who you are, and it's part of what's made you strong and resilient. It's part of what's made you compassionate. And if you can sort of assimilate even those difficult chapters, and we don't want to enter into the next difficult chapter, but if you can assimilate it into what makes up your story, you realize like this is what makes me valuable. It's what makes me I'm sitting here listening to Lori going, hot dang, her husband built embassies around the world. Like I want to hear more of that, you know?
Yeah.
It's the story. And so realizing that, you know, each of these, the home that I had, or the items that I had, or the people that I had, it's all a part of my story, but it is all intertwined. And I think there's a place of health that you can come to. We could say acceptance, and we can just say that this change of season, it's all part of the beautiful thing that is my life. And I think we're going to talk more about some of the intentional activities that you can do for healthy acceptance. But I think first thing I'd start off is just by saying, consider yourself to be valuable. Consider yourself to be a beautiful story. Like Lori, everyone in here, I'm positive, has a story that would just enamor all of us. And so just realize, like, you are awesome. And your story is awesome. And this difficult thing that you're going through is a part of that.
Yeah, thank you for that. So it's not just about the things, it's about the emotions that we're going through. So one of the emotions, moving through this process, this season, this chapter, is some grief around the change of seasons. I get a little, I recognize more every year that I feel grief around even losing the summer, the leaves and the seasonal, the cloudy skies are coming and staying for a while. Tell us, how do we begin to process that grief?
Yeah, great. There was an author who, he's a pastor, and he wrote a book and brought out this point that was something I recognized I had felt, but I'd never sort of, verbalized or crystallized in my thinking. But the way he said it just made so much sense, and I think you'll resonate with it too. He says, there comes this point in your life when you're aging, you're growing older, probably it's around junior high or high school, you start to develop a almost constant sense of sorrow and sadness. And even in the happiest moments, there in the back of your mind, you're thinking to yourself, this is gonna come to an end. And 3 weeks ago, my wife and I went with a couple of couples. We went to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and we had just this extravagant, beautiful meal with old friends we hadn't seen in forever. And it was just absolute joy. And with every bite of that delicious steak, I thought, I'm one bite closer to the end of this steak. And that is just a meal, but it's true. It's a good illustration. Now, we could say the same thing about our homes. A home is not forever. Having a little children in your house is not forever. That's something I'll also be thankful for sometimes. And you just kind of go through these things and you realize, my relationships aren't forever. And these moments that are so full of joy, boy, there's a tinge of sadness, maybe even in the back of your mind, that as awesome as this moment is, it can't last forever. And so, isn't it crazy that through all of it, there's at least this underlying concept of grief, and that grief comes along with our mortality. More and more throughout hospice, I find myself saying out loud, mortality is hard. Mortality is so hard. The Bible actually makes such a big case out of our mortality and how tremendous it is for you to walk through your own mortality, that there will be such incredible rewards to the human race for enduring mortality that the angels themselves don't understand and can't be rewarded for. The angels don't endure mortality like the human beings. And so we walk through this, and it is so very difficult. Everything, connected to this grief and this sorrow goes back to this concept of death and decay. And you look in the mirror and you see your mortality, and it's like, where did these wrinkles come from? And where did the time go? And that grief is kind of this constant companion. And to make matters even harder is we have a culture that tries its hardest to avoid sad feelings. We try our hardest to not think about sorrow. And it's like when grandma gets sick, we shove her into a nursing home and we try to forget about it. And when grandma's gone, we cremate her and we try to forget about it. And I know this is stuff I see on a regular basis. Is like people not knowing how to actually face the difficult reality. I mean, let's be real, we all die, right? Mortality is there for all of us. And these difficult seasons are there for all of us. And our culture is like, no, don't think about the sad things. And then so we're woefully unprepared. I was unprepared for the snow. I still have leaves in my yard, and I was like, dang it, I didn't want leaves under the snow.
Oh, it will melt.
Right? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it about 2 days.
Yeah, right.
And it's true, when the season changes and we do grieve summer, and by the way, the grief is an appropriate response. When you lose a sad thing, it is appropriate to grieve. I was with a family yesterday who had a treacherous adultery in their family. And the parents were like laughing and cutting jokes and not grieving. What they were doing was kind of projecting, and deflecting. And it's like, you realize that's not a healthy response. A healthy response is the appropriate emotion: grief, sorrow, cries. You know, the Bible even says that Jesus wept. In fact, that's the shortest verse in the Bible. A little trivia for you guys. Jesus wept. He demonstrated appropriate emotional response. And so it's not weakness to cry. It's wise.
So you're giving us almost permission to grieve.
Oh, I love that.
I think it's interesting. I was just at a conference, and I found myself after the middle of the conference, like, oh, the conference is going to be over soon. I was sad about that.
Yes.
So I think that makes me feel like, okay, everybody goes through this. It's not just me, and that helps a lot as well. Sandra, it's not just about grieving or sorting, but it's emotional groundwork. This process. So where do most people get stuck? Joshua's mentioned avoidance, deflection.
I think there's guilt. Like if somebody gives you a present and you're like, you have so many holidays, birthdays, Christmases, just gifts upon gifts, and it was probably expensive, or I spent a lot of money on it and I don't use it anymore, and how do I get rid of it then? Or if somebody important who gave me something is sitting right here, or if my parents who have passed have given me something and I don't use it anymore, what do I do? How do I handle not using it any longer? But there are, in my mind, what I really like to do with people is what's your favorite charity? What's your passion? Is it battered women? Because there's a battered women's or battered, I should just say, battered person thrift shop, where if you donate there, the people who are battered can go there for free and shop. So just think of those items you're not using and how much joy it'll bring to someone who's in need. So you can kind of flip the script in your mind of, I can't let go of this. I feel so guilty, but this is now going to be used and cherished in a way that you can't. And it's a nice concept to just think of how to let go in a positive way and know that. And also taking pictures, like you said. If you can take pictures of things you can create, now there's Shutterfly and different businesses that you can create a book and say, this is all of my things that my parents gave me, and these are all the beautiful artwork that my kids made that you can take pictures of. Because I have portfolios of, I seriously have so much that I try to narrow down and stick in those little clear sleeves and put in a notebook so you can kind of turn through it and look through the years, instead of having I have these big totes, plastic totes of things. So I think it's guilt, and also just like you said, the emotion of what's wrapped up in your items that would be difficult to let go.
Will you speak to just being tired of making decisions as well? I mean, but imagine that's
Yeah,
just
decision fatigue. Yeah,
decision
and that's when you stop. Because, you know,
Take a
I think,
break.
yeah, you take a break, because I think at first it's difficult to kind of get engaged in it and say, what do I want, what don't I want, and then after a while, it just becomes a little more second nature, where you're like, okay, you can quickly divide things, there's like a donation pile, a trash pile, a keep pile, a sell pile, you know, you can sell things. So as you go through it, it gets easier. And then when you start seeing like I said, I can show you before and after pictures, it's just like afterwards, you know, you're like, oh, that looks so nice, why didn't I do this sooner? That when you start seeing that materialize as well, then you can start ripping through things even faster, because you're like, I want that dopamine hit of having a beautiful space, and also functional. So, but again, there are walls in anything you do, like eating sugar. You know, there's just walls for anything. You can just overdo it, and you probably do need a break at some point. That's healthy.
And so I love that, like breaking that into bite-sized pieces,
Yeah.
Just the sorting and the remembering and the grieving. That it also has an actionable process to it. This wasn't in, well, I do want to talk to Lori, because Lori, you suggested, well, I wanted to ask you two questions. One was, what surprised you most about this concept of downsizing? You mentioned it's a surprise, it was a surprise to you, but there was a little bit of planning. You had looked around at communities, and then I also loved the part where you talked about doing this with family members.
Doing that what?
The process of sorting through with telling
family.
stories with your family.
I think the first thing that surprised me was early on when we were thinking in terms of needing to sell the home. It just happened that we were at a family dinner, and our foster granddaughter, who is now 35, she came to us when she was about 13. And she has 2 children, she and her husband, and they're just a delightful family. And the kids are about 7 and 5. And these little great-grandkids have spent a lot of time at our house too. So when we said we were going to be selling the house, Poppy, my husband, has spent a lot of time doing some really unique things, including the patio and the pergola and some of the tiling and things. There at the house, and the kids have got a lot of good memories. Candace immediately, no, you can't sell the family home. Can't one of us buy it? Shocked me. I mean, out of everybody in the family, to have her come out with that just immediately, as our foster granddaughter, was an alarming thing. She lived in our home about 3 years when she was in high school and a year after, and then bringing her own kids in to be with us off and on now. And it was that much of a piece of her that was so stabling in her traumatic life that no, you can't do this. And she still feels that way. And this is over a 2-year period now. But it alarmed me, and I realized, oh, this isn't about us. Each of these kids are going to have a piece of this house. And it's not just the house, it's all the little things in it. And that was very, very true. And you don't know what those little things are. The little Amish cupboard that the girls used to use for playing upstairs all the time, I thought that was going to be an heirloom piece that they would want to keep in the house forever, or somebody would want to hold on to. And the rocking chair. Well, the rocking chair was easy enough to hold on to, but the little cupboard was larger. Didn't have the room for it. They didn't have the room for it. That didn't get passed on. However, when we had the garage sale, one of the other grandmothers in the neighborhood picked up the cupboard. That ended up being 4 or 5 of us grandmothers who used to have kid playtimes in the neighborhood where we'd make our own play dates with our grandkids. And we had several little granddaughters who were playing with that cupboard cupboard. We all had memories. And during the garage sale, 4 of us are standing in my front room with tears in our eyes, remembering our grandkids who are now 16, 17 years old with that cupboard. That cupboard is now still in the neighborhood, and the great-grandchild, who is now 2, is going to be playing with it in a few more months when she comes for Christmas. That story is still being told, so I can take that story back to my granddaughter and say, this is what's happening to your cupboards. And Clover, I think he was one of the little stuffed toys that went with, yeah. And anyway, the kid picked it up during the garage sale and was just carrying it everywhere. We didn't want to let it go. And Mom said, you've got to put it down. And I thought, Clover's been waiting for you all day long. You've got to take Clover home. He's yours. And we did not charge him for it. Clover went home with that little boy. I mean, Clover had a new home. And that was the perfect place for Clover to be. And I could say to the kids, Clover's got a new home. And I found myself saying over and over again, it's not about the stuff. It's sometimes you want the stuff to have the proper new home. And if somebody just walks in and you're so glad that they've got that little table that's going to that home. It's a perfect place for it to be. And that's what made me feel good. And so anyway.
Yeah, and then you mentioned just talking to families through the process of having them help you. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. Well, as another example, we were having an insurance thing with our clubhouse next door, and my husband wasn't able to be there. He had COVID that day. And so some of the neighbors, some of the guys in the neighborhood came over to help me with the garage sale at the end of the insurance thing. And it was just that final clean out of the garage. And they went through my husband's garage and helped with this goes Goodwill, this can go down to Habitat, and this needs to go to the garbage. And that final clean out too was something that all of a sudden the neighbors, his pals, were helping me to do. And there were some people from the village who were family members of other staff that came on in to help set up the garage sale one of the days. And there seemed to be just community around us that would periodically just end up being there. I mean, it was just nice when it happened. Hey, we'll help you move that couch, we'll help you do this. Or when Wheeler Mission came, we normally don't take that couch because it's got rips in it. We'll take that couch today because we're taking the glass tables and I need something to pad the glass. And so I was able to get rid of all 5 pieces of that furniture so that we could finish and have the house ready to be cleaned and on the market in 2 days. There just were so many things that was happening to make this all work. And I didn't have a lot of help from the family itself. It was coming from outside.
From your community.
From my community.
Yeah. Thank you, because sometimes it's not family all the time. But I do want to ask Joshua, what role does the family play? I guess that's probably a complicated question. I guess it depends, but can you speak to that? What, for better or worse?
Yeah, I think so if we're accepting, if we kind of start with the idea that, I need to be honest with myself in what season I'm in. I need to be honest about what I'm facing, okay? Part of that honesty is like taking inventory, and I'm going, okay, this is the thing I have to do. This is the resources I have available. These are the people that are my community. So I'm taking inventory as part of my acceptance. And I look over here, and the truth is our community will make it more complicated. And so there is a tendency to isolate. There's a tendency to like, you know what, I'll just handle it myself. I don't want to call Sandra. I'll do it myself, right? And there's a tendency to isolate. I don't want to bring my kids in. My kids will just, get into a fight. And please resist isolation and engage with your community. And we all have flesh and blood family, and for the most part, that brings along dysfunction. It brings along the heartache and the things. I would say that like there's a great, awesome reason for bringing in family, especially if they're this reason being especially for dysfunction, is like reconciliation happens in a lot of these moments. Reconciliation, you're talking about the family heirloom, and some story comes out, and you realize, I never knew you felt that way. And now you're having this real conversation. It's a great conversation. And so reconciliation happening through, tough times, it's just so valuable. It makes it all worth it. So your family's gonna get involved, and they're gonna have all kinds of different opinions. As Lori was talking, I was thinking about the difference between my two grandfathers. They both lost their wives around about the same time. My paternal grandfather had all sons. My maternal grandfather had all daughters. And it seems like the one with daughters was really got a lot more help with organizing and with, cleaning out the house. And it just seemed like when it came to the possessions aspect, that grandfather with his daughters, man, they were like, so supportive. They would weep together. Ladies are so much more honest about their emotions than guys. So on my dad's side, all the brothers, all the dudes, it's just like whatever, get over it type of mentality. It's horrible. And so there's this difference, and so the weeping together, the getting honest about like, boy, I remember when mom brought this table home, or I remember, in my case, my mom actually made the table. And you look at these things and you go, man, there is this story to it. And when I think about the two family dynamics, on this side you had hands-on help, you had the honest inventorying, like we're gonna get this thing accomplished, we gotta work our way through it. We had the real conversations that were painful and crying, but in the end they resulted in reconciliation, they resulted in health. On the other hand, it took a lot longer to get there, and there's more dysfunction as a result of it. So I guess when I compare the two, I'm saying let's be honest, let's be real, let's talk about these things and not try to deflect and not try to ignore, not try to minimize. But this is important. And so kind of bringing that out. And how many of you guys have ever heard that phrase, everybody grieves in their own way? You ever heard that one? Like, look at this, right? We all heard that. How come? Okay, the way I think about this is, whoa, one of them just came on. We don't say that about any other emotion for some reason. We don't say everybody loves in their own way. Everybody laughs in their own way. It just, I don't know. I think there's this thing about grief, and I'm not really a fan of that mentality because we all grieve in the nuances a little bit differently, but generally speaking, we all grieve. And if I say to you, I grieve differently and you grieve differently, I think we're kind of just putting up a wall like nobody can help me. Because I grieve in my own way and you grieve in your own way, we can't possibly connect on our grief. Well, that's just not true. And the reason we're all up here and the reason you're in the room is we're all connected through this thing called grief. And we're all in here because of our stories being so very similar. And so the idea of bringing family into it, or I'm just going to kind of expand the word family to include like, man, your peeps, your church family, your neighbors, the grandma society in the neighborhood, right? Your community. And so you bring that in and you're like, okay, I do grieve slightly differently than you, but it's a lot more similar than we may have previously understood. So bringing the community in helps to really, really bolster that sort of confidence, like I'm not alone.
Yeah, it makes such a pleasant experience out of it as well.
It does, yeah.
My background is communications. My master's is in
communications, organizational and interpersonal. But, I think that the one thing I see in situations like this is that it's often plain communication that goes wrong. And sometimes it's that we're not thinking in terms of each individual that we know so well what their heart is really about. And especially if we're in a situation where you've got an illness that's involved, and sometimes it's hard to hear through the fear and whatever it is that's going on inside that individual. And things within their heart aren't coming out the way they normally would. And we have to listen past that. And then we also have to listen to the spouse, because that relationship, especially when a dementia, Alzheimer's is involved, that relationship really has a different dynamic to it. And you've got to listen to both people separately. You've got to listen to both people separately. Separately. That's very important. Not together in the same room, but separately. They each have to have your ear alone.
So that you can really hear them.
And you've got to really hear their heart. You know who they are. The kind, caring, loving individual that they are. With my husband, he's still always that kind, caring, loving individual. But at that time, his brain wasn't functioning in that same way. It was different in the way he thought of me.
So sometimes we have to listen for what's going on below the surface.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you don't hear where there could be problems for both together. And so it's not that it's without the love, it's the behavior that becomes a problem. There had never been any problem in our marriage. We've been married 57 years. There had been never any way that we would hurt anyone or do anything to offend. I mean, we always took care of one another. And so if I even tried to mention that there was an issue of safety, I would not be believed, because you would never ever think that there would ever be anything wrong. You've got to listen to both people.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Lori. You can tell that really meant, really important. Cynthia, you wanted to?
I did wanna add, because I think that sometimes in these issues, like just dealing with people's stuff even, you have to like communicate to hear instead of to prove you're right. So I think that's sort of what I've learned when dealing with people and their items and being, or just an emotional situation, to be communicating so you're hearing, you're inquisitive, wanting to understand other people's point of view, instead of trying to wait till they're done talking so you can make your point and be right, and just have the final word, which never really works really well, because the person with the final word is usually the one who has to apologize in the end. So you have to, it's just the give and take of communication, and just looking at your items can be emotional, but it can also open up, it depends on the person. And so there sometimes needs to be a framework that's set up within that situation, where you say we need to have an open heart, an open mind, and we have to communicate inquisitively and look at each other's thoughts, and hopefully grow and start getting closer and mending
That's great.
through that, instead of, isolating each other further by saying, I'm right, no, I'm right, but both sides need to be heard, like you said.
And the thing is that the one that is ill would never ever realize that there's anything wrong,
Right,
and never will,
sure.
never will. And that's okay, I mean, you have to realize, that's just the way it is.
This is a heavy topic.
It is a heavy topic.
Very
I
heavy.
mean, God bless anyone who's going through it.
I wanna make sure that we have time. I wanna thank you for sharing your hearts. Sandra, we have another session. 'Cause I really would like to talk about some mechanics of downsizing. But it feels like today's topic was definitely more dealing with our emotions. And just creating space to process all the feelings that go with what's gonna happen with our things. I wanna make sure that our audience, our guests have time to ask questions. Yes,
I'm
John?
John, and Joshua, I know you've read the book called Living Life Backwards by David Gibson, based on Ecclesiastes.
Nice.
It's about
I'll write that down.
Yeah,
David Gibson, Living Life Backwards, and we should all read it. Because it's about not becoming attached to things, but instead devoting your life to service and working and gratitude. That's the thing, that's the substance of it, that's it. You've read it. Yeah. Good,
Thank
you
you.
like it.
Thank
You
you.
really like it, because
Thank you,
everything you
John.
said is about that, exactly, exactly.
Thank you.
Living Life Backwards.
David Gibson.
David Gibson.
It's a little book, but powerful.
Thank you. You mentioned it to me before, and thanks for bringing it up again.
I don't like to repeat myself.
Touche. Some other questions that we have, especially with Sandra, because she can help with the mechanics if you have any of those types of questions. Yes.
So if you do have things that are considered antiques that in some realms have value, I feel like antiques have gone down in value over time. Maybe especially since COVID, seems like everybody got rid of stuff and it drove the price of things down. But where or how do you take antique furniture, antique dishes, that kind of stuff that you feel like still has value? How do you relocate that? What's some options?
I know there's a place called Vintage something, it's a number after it, Vintage 56, Vintage 49, I can't remember right now, but you can reach out to, it's just a group of vendors that, take in antiques and then have their connections that they can reach out to, and it's just like via the internet, you can send pictures, that sort of thing. You can also just do a Google search, and see if there's anybody for your very specific items. You can look online to see, even like through eBay, just to see what it was sold for, and, see what it might be expected to sell for. There's something called Everything But the House, that sells things that you can reach out to. That's an auction, so it's sort of a luck. It's sort of like eBay in the sense that it depends on who's watching the auctions at that time as to whether you'll be making a good amount of money. You can set limits, so you don't wanna sell it for less than a certain amount through, like, let's say eBay. And you can work with Everything But the House and get ideas through them on, they will just purchase things from you, they'll even like deliver it to them. So those are options. I know in working with a lot of people with antiques, sometimes you save things and you think, and they're in pristine condition, and you think they're gonna be worth a lot of money, and now they're just not. And that's disappointing, but sometimes they are, so it really is just a little bit of research, which, you could do online and reach out to people who sell those sorts of things.
think we're gonna be looking for those types of resources as well. In December, we're gonna go a little bit deeper with downsizing and get more into the mechanics of it, and we'll be looking for some resources.
Like I know someone who does antique books, and takes, and will sell antique books or antique, records. So, I have connections in that way, furniture not as much, but, yeah, you could reach out to everything about the house, like I said, or the vintage 56, 49.
54.
I guess 54.
Vintage 54.
Thank you.
Vintage.
Yeah.
I knew it's two numbers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I have a question. So before you get to actually downsizing, processing in you, how do I word this? How do you get there? So I'm just gonna give you a scenario.
Right.
My brother's battling cancer, his wife is pretty
Alright.
severely with dementia.
Very.
They need help, and so, you know, we all volunteer to help, but he's stuck in, cause he doesn't wanna admit that she's as bad as she is, nor does he wanna admit that he's as bad as he is.
Yeah.
And so they're stuck in, yeah, we'll get around to that when we need to. And need to has passed. So, how could I help, or what do I need to look for to help them get to that point? They aren't even where they're going to like, oh, okay, gee, my daughter's gonna love to have this, let's pass that on. Or gee, I haven't used this in 50 years, let's get rid of it. They aren't even close to that. How do you help someone?
That's just a
Get
long-term conversation, cause you can't make people get rid of
No.
things they don't want to, but you can
No.
always talk to them, and I love that you talked about their family, like, have you thought of bringing in your daughter or your children and having them see things that really mean a lot to them that might ease the process further down the line, like you
Sure.
said, but I think there's something called the Swedish death cleaning, which, you know, there's certain things you can like show them and say, do you really want to leave this for your loved ones later? Or do you want them to, and that's the whole, you can
Sure.
look up Swedish
They have to
death
get
cleaning.
to it.
They do, you can't make
They have to
anyone
wrap
do it.
their mind around it themselves.
And the people that I help organize, you know, there are some things that I think they should let go of, but they don't want to, and you can't make, you know, I would never make someone let go of something that's important to them, cause maybe they feel like they don't have control in their life right now, because they're going through these issues, and that's something they can control, and that makes them feel
Okay.
better. But communicating with them about it and saying, I wanna help you, and I'm here for you when you're ready, and,
They just having the sheer energy to get there.
We
That's-
had a speaker a couple of seminars ago. She said that her dad was in that situation. She knew her dad was there, the dad didn't accept that he was dead, so the way she approached it is like, I know this is not happening, but let's plan B.
yes.
And she mentioned it just, I know it's not the now, but how about let's do plan B just in case?
Yeah, that worked when my mother was dying of cancer, and that's how she and I got through everything.
Huh.
Someday, you know, this might be a problem, but let's just be prepared for that, let's talk about it.
that's a
So
good
we
idea,
worked
yeah.
through that,
Just have it written
there.
down, like, in the future, what would you like?
but my brother also saw that,
Oh,
so he's.
he knows the trick.
He
But
knows.
it's not a trick though, it's not a trick,
It's
it's
not
really
a
not, you
trick,
can
it's
tell them,
just-
listen, I hope you don't really feel like this is me trying to trick you into getting rid of things you don't want, or
Yeah.
that you want, it's not that. I really just wanna help when the time is ready.
Yeah.
So we can write this down now, this is not going to happen on my timeline, this will happen on your timeline, but I do wanna make sure these things go where you want them to go, and I wanna make sure I can help you with that.
Could it
Yeah.
help, could it start with maybe, can we help you decorate for Christmas? And at least that might help you get into the room to be
Sure,
able to
sure.
do something.
Yeah.
And then be able to, oh, well, do you really want me to help you clean out this so that we can put this up? And maybe something can happen that way, I don't know.
I think as we all continue to learn in the seminars and talk to one another, we're realizing what a gift it is to prepare our homes and to prepare our financial and legal, plans before something happens. Yeah. It's a gift.
Yes.
And so how to get that across?
Yeah.
Anything that you can do together as a family is helpful, it's wonderful, it's a memory that you're creating.
That's a great point. You can kind of do it at that angle. I wanna build memories with you, and this is one way you can do it.
Yeah, that's a
beautiful.
that's a good
Yeah.
journey right there.
Generally speaking, one of my modes of operation is always trying to get to the root of the thing, and deeper than getting rid of the stuff is, you know, some of those heart matters of like, this might feel like a loss of independence, you know, it might feel like something scary. And I was just sitting here thinking about those videos where moms will get their little toddler to turn loose of their pacifier. And I mean, that's like a little grief for a little toddler, you know, this is their,
It's a big grief.
yeah, and the older we get, we just have more pacifiers. And some of the best videos I've seen is when the toddler is engaged in like accomplishing that thing themselves, that you know what, and it's like a game or it's something where the toddler isn't having it taken away, the toddler is giving it away. And I think probably even in that tiny little heart, it's like a sense of independence for that little kid, like I'm gonna do this thing, kind of a idea.
And that also builds on the whole, your favorite charity, like if it's
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
you know, then you know when it's time,
Sure.
it can benefit those who mean something to you.
Something to be shared. Yeah.
I talked to my grandpa yesterday or Saturday, and he should not be driving. You know, he's like half blind and almost deaf, and
Be careful.
you know,
Careful.
nobody in this room. But I encouraged. He was talking about groceries. I said, "Oh, let me show you how to use DoorDash, Instacart,
Yeah.
and we'll get it." And so he can have that independence of like, I'm doing this myself, but it's also a safer option. You know, so I think to me, kind of the heart of the thing is like giving some of that sense of self-worth and self-independence and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you had a question.
My question is for Sandra that 2 years ago I moved in with a man who has lived in his house 40 years. He keeps saying I want to clear everything out that I should, but we don't know where to start. Do you come into the home and make suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I never forced anybody to do anything they don't wanna do, it's just, these are the options, this is what could work. And also, I can even show before and after pictures and say, wouldn't you love to live like this?
Yeah.
You know, just give some motivation, but yeah.
Thank you.
Sometimes just having someone do something with you is just super
Right,
helpful.
exactly.
Yeah. Like
Also, when
cleaning
it's
out
not
closet.
you know, like because it's not you, you know, it's somebody outside, all of a sudden because they're a specialist, they know more, which probably I don't, you know, but it's definitely a help to have an outside person.
Yeah, especially when you just don't know where to get started.
Right.
You just don't know where to get started. It's the overwhelm.
It's overwhelming, when it's emotionally
Yeah.
part of your situation, it's also more complicated. When it's somebody outside and they're not as emotionally connected to it all, it becomes a lot easier for me, and then to kind of give that subjective clarity to you, so maybe you can look at it from that angle.
Well, and I'm just thinking about you and your brother again, it's like maybe some more conversation about why doesn't he want to get started, you know?
Yeah, I think that's it, because, oh dear Lord, he has 10 acres, he's got a barn, I think part of it is, it's overwhelming.
Overwhelming, absolutely. Yeah.
But he also doesn't want anybody else to do it, so I'm struggling with how to creatively, and he doesn't wanna talk about these things in front of his wife, because then she gets upset, cause she's to the point where she's not understanding a lot of the conversations that are going on. And so it's a little tricky.
I think also, so with my I've dealt with people who don't wanna get rid of things, and I just spend time talking to them and just kinda connecting with them, and that's, the goal isn't just like, in the end, I'm going to get rid of things, really, the goal is just, I wanna get to know you and know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, if that's something, if they feel like there's a genuine connection, and that is, I think a lot of organizers are empathetic, that's why they get into it, and so that empathy, they start really feeling that connection with the other person, and so they can then trust them and know that they're not here to just take advantage of them.
Thank you. You had a question?
Yeah, just a question. Let's say you wanted to start independently doing your downsizing. What's the
Not
best,
isolating, but independently.
what's the best first step? In other words, you write goals, you write down what you'd like to accomplish, do you kind of lay out your own little personal game plan and then get your family involved later? Or, how do you recommend starting the process?
I think that that's a great question, and I think it's always important to start with goals, like you said. And there's always an overarching goal of, I'd like to do, and then you do start, like any other task, you break it down into smaller tasks. And then, then you can like break it down to the point where it's just bite-sized pieces. For example, just, today I'm going to spend 30 minutes and I'm going to look online and see who will buy my antique furniture, and we set up a few emails, or.
Set timetables as well, like you'd like to get
Sure.
this done by.
Yes,
next
but
date
be
or-
kind to yourself if you don't
like
reach
that.
them, but yes, definitely, the more you can break down, have an overarching goal, and then break down to the smaller goals, and it can, keep branching out. Timetables are great.
I love the idea of having the overarching goal, like what is the big goal? What do I want? What does it look like? But to have it written down like that, so the others that can come around you can see your plan. I mean, I just think that's a great idea.
It's great if you can do it, if you find that that's what then is the impediment to actually get it done, because you don't feel like creating it, then it's not. If that's not who you are.
Just trying to get it started.
But if you
Yeah.
don't, if that's not your thing in the end, and that's why you're not doing it, is because I can't write this overarching goal and I can't break it down, then don't do it that way.
Yeah.
But if that is a way thing.
I would say if you've got some of your family members or any kids or anything, pull them in right away and ask them, hey, you wanna help me with this, or is there something that you would like to do? Because they may have interest in one or two things and be able to help you with that, or wanna be able to
That's
help you
brilliant.
and be a part
Yeah,
of it.
especially like, I have these 5 things, which one do you wanna help with?
Yeah. I
Can
mean,
you tell I like to delegate?
that's something that could just be a real joy to do together.
That's awesome, yeah.
I'd like to add to this concept of community,
Yeah.
which, even in the business world, brainstorming is a collective thing. But I wanna come back, Lynn, right?
Yeah.
I was,
Berlin.
yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about the idea of community and, maybe a good thing for you to pray over, like a specific prayer. Specific prayers get specific answers, and if you would pray, Lord, would you send somebody my way who's walked this out themselves? Somebody with the experience that can help me with my brother? I am positive the Lord would help you with that.
I keep thinking too, with your brother, to just be able to, hey, we're better together. Come on, we're better together.
Yeah.
And,
Just be there for
Yeah, just keep reminding him we're better together.
Well, I'm sure a great deal of what he's dealing with is here because we watched both of our parents die from cancer, and so now that he's struggling, you know what's coming, and it's easier, I think, for some people to not deal with that. And so I think that might be part of the reason why he's stuck. The problem is his wife needs more care than he's able to give her, and so he's stuck, and that's impeding her well-being as well. And so we have to think of both of them.
I heard a teacher, and this kind of connects Marty and Lynn both, about this idea of getting stuck up front. And this teacher said something, he said, what if procrastinators are more focused on the labor it'll take to do a project, and the accomplishers are those who have the goal in mind. So it's gonna take the amount of work no matter what, but if you're oriented towards the reward, the teacher was kind of posing that, like, wouldn't we love this result?
Well, and I'm wondering if it just.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
If it just takes a different way, rather than trying to, I wanna say declutter, maybe it's that you're bringing somebody in to be able to take care of the mother, and the declutter still stays until the next step happens, she's taken care of, and it takes a little longer before the declutter and the moving forward happens.
Oh, yeah,
There's so many things that,
there's so many parts
Options.
to all of this, yeah.
so many options.
George?
This is emotional.
It's very heavy.
Okay. I came saying, well, I'm gonna get information on how I can do this and that. And the emotional part's taken over. But my wife, I take care of my wife. I do the banking, I do everything. She concentrates on the kids. She doesn't wanna deal with these issues. So, well, that's one reason why I keep coming to these. And you all have touched on different ways of communicating, but how do I rely on one of my daughters who lives locally. She's the one who's getting all my thoughts and ideas on planning and doing this and that. But I can't break through to my wife to get her into this. It's like, she's missing so much that we could be doing.
Yeah.
It's,
But you're doing other things together with her though, your wife? Do you feel like you're connecting in other ways? Is it important to connect in those very specific ways? Or do you feel like that's really?
well, I don't know exactly what you might be getting to.
Well, I think that you're connecting with your daughter with some ideas, which then hopefully,
Yeah,
your daughter
I'm relying on her
yeah.
to be able to handle all these details. I have written in pages of
Mm-hmm.
da-da-da-da-da-da, that I'm relying on my daughter to be able to step in. In fact, that's why we're visiting with Indiana Elder Law.
Nice.
And anyway, they're good. It's just getting, I don't know.
It's just getting her to sit down and talk about these future plans with you, getting her to.
Yeah, she'll just back off real quick.
Will she be okay with your daughter taking care of them if she never does them?
I pray to God she will.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like if it's not gonna be a conflict for your daughter to follow through with your.
She actually wants to, because I think she recognizes this.
The dynamic.
Yeah, but it's,
Is that okay with your wife as well, for your daughter to take care of those?
I'll answer that by saying, I don't know.
Oh, that's a good conversation.
Well, I just hear that happening, because as people have their roles in a relationship, and I don't know that there's any one answer. Obviously, I don't know your wife, and because you just want to have a conversation, you want to be able to say, hey, look, I need you to hear me, as this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And that's what I hear, that's what I understand that you're struggling with, is it sounds like she's not necessarily wanting to be in on the planning of all of these things.
Yes. I always say, I'm coming to these things and I'm learning stuff.
Mary says that same dynamic in her relationship. She wants to plan. He he doesn't
Right,
want to be on the
yeah,
plane,
my
yeah.
husband's a lot, he's older, and, but he's sickly, so I know our time is coming. I mean, this house is way too big, way too much, but it frustrates him when I bring up stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a pain for me, but I just trust in God, He'll give me the strength every day, and I just start getting rid of stuff. I'm just, and he has never said anything. He has actually, because he used to do photography as a hobby, he finally decided, I said it would be helpful if I don't know this stuff, if you could, and he had a friend come over and take lots of stuff. But other than that, for him, it's real important to stay in that home, I think, until he passes. So that's okay. So he's 82, I'm 65. So then I'm gonna do what I have to do. So I'm going through clothes of his that I know don't fit him. And then going through my stuff, going through the kitchen. So instead of he gets aggravated, like, he doesn't, I don't know if I want it. Then it's like, okay, no biggie, I'm not gonna ask you anymore. I'm just gonna get rid of it because he won't even know, because we don't use it. For him, there's a couple things that I wouldn't wanna change, like the family room and the TV, I mean, that's, and his car. But other than that, if I cleared out his whole closet, he'd probably hardly notice, so.
So it sounds like when instead of trying to change necessarily the person, we're finding ways to work around, like you are with Indiana elder law and state elder law.
That's a good explanation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very good description of what you just said.
Because you love them and you don't want them to get upset.
Yeah, and there's no need to get them that upset.
Exactly, yeah, there's no need for me to
It's
tell them
okay.
everything I'm giving away or getting rid of. I mean, that just,
Thanks.
yeah, Mary.
I find all the time, Mary, it's okay, honey. It's
Right,
okay.
it's okay.
So one of the things that I'm finding in these seminars is how helpful it would be to have a family therapist as an education. If anybody knows a good family therapist, you need to get them here. Yes, so in answer to your question, I'm sorry, Betsy?
I'm sorry, just probably the fact that it doesn't have to be you who gets her on board of the situation. It can be an expert. It can be somebody that you bring into the home as an expert, somebody who knows about those things, and just give a consultation. Say, well, I brought this expert home and she's just gonna assess how our living situation is, what things could be risky for you and me. We don't have to make a decision, they're just gonna make an assessment. And sometimes when it doesn't come from that person, it kind of clicks better. And in the situation with my mother-in-law, not only she was dealing with dementia, but she had some sort of respect for professionals. So she was not fighting us and making decisions, but the doctor said, or the professional said, or something like that. It kind of made it a little easy on us to move along with things without making her feel that we're just, pulling the rug under her feet and making decisions that she was not ready to make. So maybe in your situation, if she pulls away from you when you want to, just say, I'm thinking of inviting an expert, and the expert can be Leanne and I as a downsizing expert, or it could be the organizer or we had the safety for staying at home person. Just go in there and say, these are experts because I'm worried about our health, I wanna be safe, I wanna take care of you and make sure that our house is safe as it is. And somebody will come in and make this assessment that probably is gonna make her look like, maybe we're not, and I see what you're saying now, kind of thing, of what are you worried about? Because then an expert is coming to say.
Yeah.
My honest reaction, and I agree.
Yeah.
But my reaction is, she's gonna say, Hell no.
So I guess the question, going back to goals, is what is your overarching goal with your wife that you want to have happen in this respect?
Well, one of the things that's starting to concern both of us, but me more, is our health situations. But getting her to start paying attention to more things in the future. She says, "Oh, we got a house full of stuff."
Yeah, the
I
stuff
agree.
is usually the first
And,
door to get, the first hurdle to get
Yeah.
through.
and I look around the house and say, how do I get rid of this now? I'm not using some of this stuff.
Does she wanna hold on to it and you don't? Is that the whole concern?
Well, I don't fight it.
Yeah.
I see.
So, you know, I'm part of that piece too.
Mhm.
I have all these tools in the basement in my workshop. And I'm not using them.
Mhm.
You know, I gave away tons of power tools, but no.
Ooh.
Anyway,
That just reminds us of a friend that, we went down to help them, remove all the items from the house, and he had a workshop, I mean, an amazing workshop in his basement.
yeah,
But unfortunately, we
We
were the
found
ones
the way
that,
to get rid of it.
we found a way to, yeah.
yeah.
Definitely wanted to talk to you more about that.
But there's
Love it, yeah.
information I picked up is great. I'm trying to figure out how to break through that barrier.
Love that. Thank you so much for just expressing that, because you mentioned maybe the disconnect or just that hard to approach the subject. I mean, I think everybody in this room, there's a tough conversation to be had, and we just don't know how to have it. And so you bringing that up just reminds us that we're not alone, so thank you for that.
There probably is a Christian way, right? Like you would say that, I love you, and we have so much stuff, but we don't need anymore, we're not using it. So we can give it to other people who would, so appreciate it. So, I mean,
Yeah, find some way to, we're not downsizing, we're
Yeah, I mean,
we're
I love you.
simplifying,
Find
right,
it.
yes.
I think one of the ways that we can do it individually is to take a look at just your stuff, the stuff that you use. If it is your tools, go through your toolbox and say, oh, well, I can take and downsize, I can reduce this amount. If it is your kitchen supply cabinet, you can reduce this amount, so that you are taking care of your stuff, not your spouse's, not your daughter's, but just your stuff. You can say to your daughter, honey, we've stored this stuff of yours long enough in the house. Can you please come take a look at your stuff and get your stuff out of our house? You can indicate to your spouse, depending upon where they are at in this process. I'm getting rid of some of the things I have as extra, trying to clean out a drawer. Do you have any drawers that you'd like to clean out that's your stuff, honey? And do it that way, rather than saying our stuff to reduce and downsize. Just make the example for your own personal self.
So, again, well said, that's a way to wrap this all up, Lori, in a nice bow. Change yourself, change what you can control, which is
That's
only
right,
yourself.
change what you can control
Yeah,
and accept the
well said.
fact on my serenity thing, accept the things you cannot.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sandra, you have to come back in December to talk to us more about how to get through the moving process, how to maybe pack and sort, just more nitty gritty in the actual downsizing process. Thank you so much, Joshua, so much to bring our faith into today's conversation. I'm so grateful for that. Lori, thank you for driving all the way from Noblesville to be here. Fishers, yes.
Enjoy.
As you go today, before you go, please stop by and say hi to our education partners that have just been here to support us all with our questions, and take your questions to them. And thank you again so much for coming. if you do wanna talk more about, I guess if you're thinking about moving anytime within the next 5 years, think about coming and talking to Betsy and I next Tuesday night.
Thank you.